Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Double 18 podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Negishi, along with my co-host to my right on the screen is the associate editor of the sports blog, Awful Announcing. Ken, good afternoon. Thanks for joining me once again on this Sunday night, early Sunday evening. Hope you had a wonderful week wherever you might be, and thank you for joining us once again. How was your week been so far?
Good, good. It's I'm on location. Not saying where I am, but good to be with you. And it's interesting. Another interesting sports weekend, and of course we have NFL free agent frenzy coming up, Stephen,
Yep.
starting tomorrow. So you had a lot of interesting stuff happening, and of course you have the college basketball winding down. A lot of good tournaments happening. So let's get to it. Oh, my lights went off. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I apologize in advance. I've been dealing with a cold myself. It's been a rough week personally, so I'm going to mute myself every once in a while if I need to sneeze or blow my nose and stuff like that. As you can probably tell, how nasally my voice is and stuff like that, throat wise. But I want to apologize. Thankfully, the weather is starting to warm up a little bit around my neck of the woods as well, and hopefully wherever you are, things are finally starting to warm up in your neck of the woods as well. All right, Ken. Obviously, a big story to discuss today is the 2026 F1 season has begun as of this morning here in America, probably about at midnight or just after midnight. Obviously, we had a daylight savings time, which pushed everything up an hour, which is why, as you can probably see, the sun's kind of still glaring right directly at me. Instead of 5 o'clock, it's 6 o'clock as of right now. But anyway, here in America, as we all know, ESPN no longer carries the broadcast, and it's 100% carried by Apple TV, and that change has been been known for quite a while. I think for many people, and along with it, the changes are also being made. Danica Patrick, former racer, is no longer doing the coverage for Sky Sport, which was kind of interesting, obviously, because still American coverage, I think, is very important. Considering how much F1 seems to value the U.S. market over the years. With the addition of several races here in America, with Austin and then now Miami several years back now, and then on the field itself, a lot of the racers are very, very upset, even though they knew that this was actually something that was in the making for the last several years. They complain about the cars, calling it the Formula E, which is the electrical version of Formula One, that Formula E on steroids or something like that. And certainly their results were very much in contrast in favor of Mercedes-Benz. Top two finishes between George Russell and Kimi Antonelli. 3-4 was dominated, of course, by Ferrari team. A lot of the racers are complaining about the so-called electrical engine, the hybrid engine, which Lewis Hamilton said that despite the explanation given by FIA, which is a governing, sanctioning government body of F1, you have to have like an advanced degree to know this, and so forth. So it's going to be a very interesting, given the all kinds of changes both on and off the field. Let's talk about the coverage here in America.
Well, let me first talk about some of the changes too. There's a lot of changes, as you mentioned. Rule changes. The cars are lighter. It's a little bit more difficult to steer the car before the race
braking
started.
too, as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So what happened before the race? They had a chance to do a reconnaissance lap. Oscar Piastri was who had a chance
Piastri,
to.
yeah. Yep.
Yeah, he crashed his car in the start of that reconnaissance lap, so he never even got to race. It was his home country. He was going to be going there, and it was a chance for him to be in front of get on the podium for the first time for an Australian driver, but he never got that chance. And his teammate Lando Norris, who of course won the world championship last year with McLaren, he had to go racing alone. But as you mentioned, Mercedes is the big favorite because it seemed like, as you mentioned, some of the rule changes seem to benefit them. I'm not saying it was written for Mercedes, but right off the bat, the the 1-2 finish was Mercedes with.
Yep.
So they had a 1-2 finish, and it was very. Even though there was some interesting racing, they had between he and Charles Leclerc, it was very interesting racing to see that between Mercedes and Ferrari, at least for the first part of the race. But then it just one thing that befell and was criticized for Formula One for the last few years is that. Once the race is decided, it's pretty much no much in doubt. And once the racing between Leclerc
I think
and
you're
George.
mentioning the pole position has been determined. The race is pretty much over, right?
Yeah. So, but today it was a finish between 1-2 Mercedes, Leclerc and George. The first place finisher was George. Trying to remember off the top of my head. Steven, do you remember the first place finisher of the race today? Let me find
George
out.
Russell. George Russell.
George Russell. Yeah, George Russell won it. So George Russell, he and Leclerc went back and forth in the first part of the race, and it seemed like pretty exciting racing. So now you have what's called the boost, which actually allows you to overtake. There's no longer the DRS zones, which seem to be quite boring. There's only certain areas where you're restricted and you could take over. Now you can do boost, and that led to a lot of exciting racing in the first half of the race. And eventually, once it was decided, George eventually won the race, going away. His teammate Kimi Räikkönen, I think, was second, and then it was Ferrari finishing third and fourth, with the Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton finishing third and fourth. But overall, Stephen, it was pretty exciting for the first part of the race. Unfortunately, Oscar Piastri wasn't able to race. That was a very unfortunate thing. He'll have to come back next week in China. Right. But very unfortunate to see, because it was almost 500,000 people in the stands today in Australia to see the race, and it was in Melbourne. It was really unfortunate to see that he couldn't finish. He couldn't even start. He couldn't get into the race.
He's a native Australian and a world champion. I think he's a world champion, defending champion, right?
No. Lando Norris is the defending champion. So, but Piastri was.
But it was a bummer still, nonetheless, for Piastri.
Yeah,
he was not even driving his own country. So.
Yeah, it was really sad to see, because everybody in Australia wanted to see it. It was the first race of the season, and it was unfortunate that he hit something. But as you mentioned, steering was an issue because this is new cars. Braking is an issue. So he was trying to upshift, and he got a little bit more power than he thought, and then he hit the left side of the wall, and then he hit the right. So he actually spun and hit his right tire against the left wall, and then slid across the track. There was no way they could bring him back. I mean, a previous world champions crashed during racing also as well. So during the qualifying. So, Max Verstappen, he crashed during his car too, Friday. So it was pretty tough on everybody, but, interesting racing, Stephen, interesting stuff. And, that's what happened earlier today in Australia.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to go away. Probably going to be an issue dominated pretty much the entire season. I know already people are saying I'm already out on the F1 already and stuff like that. There was even also a controversy about F1 boss hitting back over the rules and criticism. Stefano Domenicali, I believe how you pronounce it, about he hit back at Verstappen and Hamilton, who, by the way, both of them have won more than 10 titles among them. Calling it and then criticizing both, and then calling those two racers out. It's I don't know if it's a smart idea pissing off those two legendary drivers in such manner. I think criticism is always warranted in something of this nature, because let's face it, these racers are the ones who are putting their lives on the line, for a shot at the shot at the world championships. And they have a valid reasons, and to feel that if the if it's a product that's worth investing, or worth fans from all over the world to for here in America to subscribe to Apple TV, again, which means it's another money that they have to pony up for a subscription, because obviously it's a streaming services. And for many fans around the world to, in some parts of the world, you have to stay up at after midnight to just watch the game, just to watch the race. And certainly, I think the problem, obviously, in the electrical power and then the 50-50 engine of a hybrid is certainly what made it. Probably, I think in the article that I was showing you earlier, Audi made it. Audi was the one who got in recently. They took over the Sauber team. And then also, let's not forget, here in America, Cadillac. Yes, which, by the way, of Andretti Racing, they're joining the F1 for the very first time. So there is a little bit of an investment here in American fans to kind of watch. And then, of course, let's not forget the legendary Honda, which left after they won the world title with Red Bull. Came back, a year later to. Oh, I'm sorry. It was at the end of last year, and then now they're teaming up with Aston Martin. The green car, and then there was talk about Aston Martin may not even be able to race at all. Maybe they might drive 15, 20 laps, and they might just even shelve it because of this problem that the hybrid engine, the power units that makes the engine. And I can understand that. So there is a controversy kind of on the field, as well as here for most American fans. I think the casual ones, who were able to get up and then watch it on ESPN. It's a change, because I don't know how many people are that much of a diehard to pay Apple TV to keep up with their fix on watching the F1. What do you think, Ken?
Well, of course, Apple TV is trying to make this a big thing, and they had the F1 movie that they produced last year, which was very popular, and they saw how popular the movie was, and they said, okay, so let's make a decision and outbid ESPN for the U.S. rights for F1. So what Apple TV is doing, Stephen, is using the F1 TV subscription feed, and you don't have to pay extra for it because it's now integrated into Apple TV's coverage. That's the main feed. However, if you're used to watching Sky Sports on ESPN with David Croft and Martin Brunson and the like, they are still going to be part of it, you still can see that. You just have to scroll down and then find the Sky Sports. And not only that, they're continuing to showing all of their coverage, whether it's qualifying, practices, also the pre-race coverage with the Grand Prix Sunday, which is very popular as well. And people love to watch Martin Brunson going through pit road and seeing who we can interview they get impromptu interviews, and he did that today. So it was good to watch. Yeah, as going under the paywall, I know that's been a bone of contention, especially with NFL fans. It is not going to be an extra part, because like what we used to have with MLS Season Pass, Apple has realized that, so they're not charging that anymore. So what they're doing is just saying, hey, look, we have an F1 portal. You want to watch it, you subscribe to us, but it's going to be there for you to see, and you can watch everything there. They have a very good portal there, I would have to say, and I will say that I used to work for Apple, but I'm no longer there, so I can say pretty much what I want. But I will say that I do like the fact that you have that option of whether watching F1 TV or you have to watch Sky Sports. So if you want to watch those two, is it bad to have it under a paywall? Yes. I mean, when you're used to having just to turn on ESPN and watching the race, but you're also given a lot more options. ESPN would used to cut off as soon as the podium was shown, they used to cut off the race and go on to Sports Center or whatever. Apple TV shows you pretty much everything. They said, okay, we're going to show, they also show some of the post-race coverage that you had missed under ESPN. They showed all that from Sky Sports. So there are some trade-offs. Unfortunately, yes, paying $12.99, no one wants to pay a little bit more, but they're also going to be having, I think the Canadian Grand Prix is going to be simulcast with Netflix later this season. There's going to be a couple races shown with Tubi, which is a free service. So we'll see how this goes. Apple is very secretive on its viewership numbers. They did this with MLS. We really don't know what the numbers have been for MLS, although some people suspect it has been low ever since they took over the contract. But the owners seem to be okay with it because they get a lot of money from Apple. So we'll see how this goes. If there's a lot of success and a lot of people going to watch F1 in the United States and ponying up, Apple, I'm sure, will release those numbers, but we'll have to wait and see. But right now, if you're an F1 fan and you love that watching it, you at least get both F1 feed, which you had to subscribe to before. It's now part of the F1. It's a part of the Apple ecosystem, and you also have Sky Sports. So you have those two feeds to watch, and also a lot of pre-race coverage and a lot of videos to really watch, so you can get your Jones, especially for not only for the races upcoming, but also review some of the races. What they also do is give some of the past races that were shown as well in that. So if you wanted to watch if you wanted to get ready for the Australian Grand Prix, they showed a couple of races that from years past, so you can get ready for it. So interesting stuff, Stephen. I liked what I saw today, and the race coverage, the pre-race coverage, and also the practices. I got to watch Sky Sports. I also watched a little bit, but I will say one thing though. During today, during the pre-race coverage, during Grand Prix Sunday, Sky Sports had a double box and showing Oscar Piastri live. They showed his crash live. F1 TV during their pre-race coverage seemed to miss it. And I don't know how you seem to miss it because they're the official F1 feed, but they missed it. They didn't show it live. So I will say Sky Sports does a little bit more comprehensive coverage, and I'm impressed more with Sky Sports. And I will continue to watch Sky Sports, even though F1 TV is shown in 4K. I'm much more willing to watch Sky Sports coverage. And I think they're also in 4K as well. But I think I'd rather watch Sky Sports, is what I'm familiar with, and I'm glad that I have that choice.
Mm-hmm. Well, I appreciate the your experience, having subscribed to Apple TV for very much a long time, yourself, and hopefully things get much better for F1. It's F1 has seemed to have gained a significant momentum over the years, especially here in America, thanks to the Netflix's drive to success and everything. So this is not a time to certainly, alienate the fans, not just with the Apple TV and then being forced to, subscribe to another's live streaming services, but then
Mhm.
the product itself is, something that even the excuse me, the racers themselves are, are criticizing, and then the head of the F1 is hitting back at those racers who have given you so much, you know, championships and prestige over these years, and then calling them out for it. So it's not a off to a good start, but we'll see what happens the rest of the way, and then maybe we'll touch on this if there's anything worth mentioning on the both
Let me
what's
also
happening. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, let me also mention that Drive to Success is going to be also on Apple TV. They're also going to they have this current season 8, so that's going to be on not only on Netflix but also be shown on Apple. So one way of Netflix and Apple deciding to share things, and also, as I mentioned, the Canadian Grand Prix will be seen also on Netflix as well. So something to see to watch for, and we'll see what the future holds. But right now, Apple is going all in on F1. They also mentioned that there will be a sequel to the movie, which I wasn't a fan of because I thought that Brad Pitt was a more of a vanity project for him. But I think that right now the Apple's all in, and it looks like they want to make sure that a lot of people come over, and not only that, not only they be subscribed, but they also sample some of their other shows as well.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on to the next topic. Certainly, another big sporting event that's happened this week, World Baseball Classic, and it's been a huge hit. And I want to kind of talk about twofolds. The Team USA and then the rest of the world, and so forth. I think the Team USA has finally decided that they wanted to take this tournament very seriously, and sure enough, on paper, the lineup wise, excuse me, they have a massive lineup with Schwarber, Aaron Judge, Gunnar Henderson, Alex Bregman, and so forth, Cal Raleigh, and so forth. Now, on paper, it looks good, but from anybody who's been paying attention to the emotions that has been exhibited by other countries, we always knew that baseball has always been big outside of the U.S. And not just here in America, but it's always been, they had their own cultures. If you, a year ago, you probably saw, the Dodgers and the Cubs play in Japan to open up a season. And you probably saw an exhibition between, both the Cubs and the Dodgers playing the Yomiuri Giants and Hanshin Tigers. The rooting and the cheering has always been a part of the tradition. Somebody who lived in Japan and went to baseball on more than one occasion, it can be annoying, but it's always been there to a degree. And I think a lot of American fans probably who've been to Japan to watch the game,
Like
or
me.
Whether it was last year or even the years before that, they probably saw that firsthand. And then if you go down in Miami, and then it was South America, as of right now, you see Dominican Republic, Venezuela, Puerto Rico, Panama. It's always been crazy. The winter leagues, you see the amount of emotions and the excitement that the players exhibit, as well as the fans in the stands. It's in the winter leagues as well as the ones we're seeing right now. It's been incredible so far that I think a lot of people are seeing that World Baseball Classic has finally kind of might have gotten a strong acceptance here in America for the first time in a while. And it's kind of interesting because right now the Team USA, they struggled a little bit for first 4 innings or so against Great Britain yesterday. They were down 1-0. Tariq Skubal gave up a leadoff home run, and then from there he at least went 0. And the U.S. Hitters, the potent lineup, kind of struggled against the Great Britain's pitching before they finally broke out and won 9-1 yesterday, I believe. And there was an interesting comment made by Bryce Young in regards to the comparison between a World Baseball Classic, excuse me, and then the Olympics. I'm going to play a clip here on his comments on what is a sort of a perceived slight against the World Baseball Classic, and him, wanting to play again in the World Cup more so than anything else. Do you see the screen right there, Ken?
Yeah, I see it.
All right, I'm going to play it right now.
Yeah,
here we go.
I've been fighting for LA 28 for a long time. I think my whole career I've been trying to get something started or something coming up. Obviously the WC has been great, but
Can you raise the volume a bit?
No disrespect to WC or anything, but everybody knows that when the Olympics are on, everybody's watching. No matter what sport it is, it could be the most random sport, and it's got all the fans watching it. So I'm hoping LA 28 happens. I'm hoping the next CBA agreement something can happen where teams and players can come to an agreement on taking that 2-week break, especially it being in our home country. It'd be great for baseball. You talk about growing the game, and being able to grow it at the highest level would help out tremendously. Yeah.
So yeah, I see what he's saying, and he's absolutely right, Stephen. I can't hear you. I think you muted yourself. So, but just wanted to mention that.
I apologize. I'm just sorry. I took a little bit of a pause there for.
No, I understand. And absolutely mute yourself. So if you're going to cough, but absolutely. But mentioning, yes, we mentioned that before, and we talked about this when I'm not sure if the WBC was the last time it was on. We were doing the show, but I will say that. That it's good to see the United States take it more seriously. We saw what happened in the finals a few years ago.
3 years ago against Japan. Right?
So yeah, we were doing the show. The United States and Japan were in the final, and you had Shohei Ohtani facing Mike Trout and it was a bases loaded, and it was really a lot of tension. It was great to watch, and the fact is that Ohtani struck out Mike Trout with a chance for Trout to win the game, and there was a lot of tension. It felt a lot like a World Series, Stephen, and I think that that's what baseball wants to tap into. And as mentioned, you don't get. And it's great that people are watching it, and there's a lot of buzz on social media, and I think Fox will get some pretty decent ratings for this. Not total knockout ratings, but. I do think that the fact that, and I don't think Harper was, I just think the fact is that you want to be able to watch this in the Olympics. Now, the whole thing just has to be negotiated in the next collective bargaining agreement, kind of similar to what the NHL hockey players did to get into Olympic participation. And we also what the fun and the and everyone was paying attention to the United States hockey team, men's hockey and women's hockey team last month in Milan and Cortina last month, and you saw how they were managing to get everybody to watch. Now the thing is, Stephen, is it will be able to see this in the Olympics. They're talking about extending the All-Star break for the Major League Baseball and maybe having a 4-day tournament or maybe a 5-day tournament. I think that would be an absolutely spectacular thing if they can do something similar similar to what they have. They get the United States and Japan and Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico and Mexico and Italy. We saw Italy. Oh, one thing that I loved about Italy is that when they hit a home run, the players would drink espresso. It was a very fun thing to watch on the bench.
Yeah, I saw that one.
So and we also saw Shohei Ohtani unfortunately hitting a grand slam home run against my Taiwan team and beating them 13-0. That was very unfortunate. I hated to see that, but Japan's a better team than Taiwan. But and I also hate the fact that they call them Chinese Taipei. But that's neither. I'm not going to get into that right now. But I'm not very happy about whenever they're called Chinese Taipei instead of their real name. That's a China thing, not but forcing that along amongst international competition. But I will say it's great to see these teams and these countries. It's fun to watch. Unfortunately, the only thing is that there's a pitch count. It's a hard pitch count. It would be great to see them best on best in July when they're like it would be in the Olympics in 2 years from now. But that's got to be collectively bargained. We'll have to see if that happens. But I think
Right.
I don't think Harper's necessarily dissing the World Baseball Classic. I think he's just saying the fact that he's liking it, but he just wishes that more people could watch. I think that we'll see what happens. I think that the fact is that this is when it first began, Stephen. When the World Baseball Classic first began, people were a little bit skeptical, but now we're seeing more and more people get into it. Especially Shohei Ohtani wants to play for Japan. We are seeing people playing for England now, and you didn't think that Great Britain could hold the United States down, and it took for a two-run homer to finally the United States to break the glass against the Great Britain. But for a while, it was a little tense there. The United States was like saying, "Hey, what's going on here with Great Britain?"
I know.
So it's fun. I think it's a fun watch, and it's great to see this alternative, and along with March Madness, to bring this to the calendar. We don't want this every year, but I think it's a fun thing to watch, and I would love to see this lead to Olympic participation, especially maybe a 5-day tournament or a 4-day tournament that could work, especially if you extend the All-Star break and can ensure that this is going to be it's going to work great because it would be in Dodger Stadium if they're able to do this. Let's see what happens.
Right. A couple of things I want to add on this. I think he kind of took a snide at World Baseball Classic because we know Harper and Rob Manfred have a history.
They don't get along.
They don't get along because of the upcoming CBA. I think Harper made a very, very I don't want to say threatening comments against Manfred, but he did say something along that line not too long ago. So, and World Baseball Classic is a brainchild of Manfred and Major League Baseball. They own the rights, they manage it, and there have been some gripes in regards to the the participation and the amount of money and so forth. In Japan, it's been a problem because you don't get to see it on over the air television.
Yeah, Netflix has the rights in Japan,
right? And they're paying a significant amount of money. It's been a massive problem because the older Japanese fans, like parents, you and our parents, aren't really used to paying subscription services to watch televisions. So that's been a massive problem. I think Japan is the only country right now that has you have to subscribe to Netflix to watch World Baseball Classic this time, which is not well received, unfortunately. So, and that money will probably funnel towards the Major League Baseball one way or another. And then also the parts of it also, as I was telling you earlier, Harper and Rob Manfred don't see things eye to eye with the CBA negotiations. We know that, and so there is that aspect of it, as well as you can tell Harper. I don't know if he was just basically, suppressing himself, or just basically that's who he is. Kind of like mundane attitude. I think there have been some tweets about, Team USA versus the rest of the world, the fans and their emotions, wearing it in their sleeves. The players, we know that Latin players, they've always been emotional. That has gotten them into trouble in more ways than one here in America. They would show emotions when they make a big play or hit a massive home runs, trot out, slow walk, or just watch the ball just fly, and then in the next step back they would get hit by a pitch, and the so-called the unwritten rules and so forth. It's a stark reminder. I think it's and then there's Tarek Skubal, who pitched yesterday, who said that I'm just going to pitch England and I'm just going to go back to Detroit Tigers spring training. And now he's kind of like, I haven't decided yet. I want to stick around and pitch for the next game or not. But I think the Team USA has always kind of like had this business type approach. Whether they win or not, it really doesn't impact their the bottom line or bank accounts. Whereas, team, Japan and the other countries, they give a damn about these types of, tournaments more so than anybody else. So I think that kind of approach, I think American fans are starting to see it a little bit more. And I'm also find it interesting that, Harper mentioned Olympics, because I know Team USA hockey team won it, and then certainly got their, enough coverages, negative ones, which we talked about it last week, or when they went to the White House, and certainly deserved the all kinds of criticisms that they were receiving for laughing it up with Kash Patel, and then of course Donald Trump over the phone as soon as they won the gold against Canada. And I think that might be that's something that maybe guys like Harper and the others were hoping to replicate, perhaps, as controversial as it is. But hey, no negative publicity is better than no publicity at all. Am I right, guys? Right. So I think as long as people like Harper just doesn't seem to really have their heart or emotions really invested in, I don't know if Team USA can be taken seriously, or if they will really, really win, against the likes of Japan or Dominican Republic, in my opinion. Ken, what do you think?
I think that, I think the WBC is, like, as I mentioned, it's grown in popularity. Like I said, it was when it first started, it wasn't treated very well. But I think the last 3 years ago, when we saw what happened between Japan and the United States, it really, and especially with Otani and Mike Trout at the time were teammates, it really, really helped to bring this along. I'm waiting to see this, Stephen, to see where this leads. I think I'm glad to see that the players are taking it more seriously. I'm happy that to see that fans are watching it, and they're saying, "Hey, look, this is baseball. This is real baseball. This is not exhibition." The teams are taking it seriously. Great Britain is taking it seriously. Italy is taking it seriously. They want to win. They're not here they're just happy to be there. They want to win. They want to show that they can be baseball nations. And if this leads to Olympics participation down the line, because as we know, the Olympics took baseball and softball out in 2008 after China. So and they've been trying to get back into the Olympics, and they're in as demonstration sports this year. But we'll see if they can get back in the good graces of the Olympics, and I think it'll all begin with this World Baseball Classic, if we can see some good ratings. And then after, with the collective bargaining agreement, if Major League Baseball and the players can decide on this, because it has to be collectively bargained. If it is, and a success, we will see that. And I think if we do see Olympic participation, Stephen, I think it would be very good for the game. I think it'd be a great way to expand the game. And as we mentioned, Japan, we can't assume the United States is going to win the whole thing because the United States has not won every single World Baseball Classic. The Dominican Republic has. Japan has twice. The United States did win in 2017. But, we have to see that, it's not an assumed thing for the United States to win the World Baseball Classic because there are other baseball nations out there. And I think it would be great to have like I said, if it's going to be a 5-day tournament, it's going to be a 4-day tournament. I think it'd be great to see. And, as long as I know one thing that baseball owners don't like to see is that losing games, but also injuries. We saw some injuries with the NHL players, with some of the NHL players from the tournament, the Olympic tournament last month. But, sometimes that can't be avoided. But I'd love to see it. And, I do think that, especially if we see something similar to an Ohtani Trout situation going down to the ninth, especially if those teams are in the ninth inning going for the championship like they did 3 years ago, I think a lot of people would care. I mean, you put the United States on some type of uniform, it doesn't really matter what the sport. People are going to, and especially like soccer, we've seen it in soccer, we've seen it in hockey, we've seen it in other sports as well. If you put the United States banner or the name on top in front of the jersey, people are going to watch. And I think people will watch this year too for the WBC.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Olympic talks are nothing if neither side can come to an agreement. And we know that owners will try and circumvent the players and their salary by instituting a cap any means necessary. And I know the players like Harper are adamant against that. So, I'm kind of interested, if Olympic talks is some sort of a shots fired against the owners and Manfred by Harper to say, hey, Olympics is in 2 years, we want to participate. You want us to participate? We need to get we need to get the CBA done. And again, unfortunately, neither side are going to budge till probably the very, very end. 2027 season is certainly in jeopardy at this rate. I think a lot of people are very much pessimistic about it. But, if they're dead serious about wanting to have an Olympics in 2028, I'm sure that, something has to be done between two sides, because I think it would be a detriment for the MLB to throw away, 2027 season because both sides cannot come to an agreement on this. And I was also listening to Jesse Rogers of ESPN talking on ESPN in Chicago, where he does a fill-in show and he's reside. There's he mentioned the possibility of moving the World Baseball Classic to the summertime as well. I find that also interesting as well, because what are you going to do with the All-Star game? You're going to have something that's very similar to what the NHL did with the Four Nations tournament, and then maybe we've talked about this many times, Ken, about the MLB All-Star game and how it's kind of like lost its luster to a degree. And I think if you replace All-Star with the World Baseball Classic once in a while, I think that's very doable. If it's like for 2 weeks or something like that, with the Japan, USA, Dominican, Venezuela, Mexico, Puerto Rico, and so forth. You certainly will have enough teams to maybe do a round robin and then maybe get the tournament done in 2 weeks or something like that, which certainly wouldn't put too much of a dent on the regular season, by the way. So I'm very, very curious, if the success, regardless of whether the Team USA wins or not, would lead to a bigger opportunity for Team USA, because, let's face it, March is, certainly spring training. And most of the players in every country that they're representing, they're just kind of like getting into it. They're just kind of like really focusing on themselves, getting ready for the upcoming season. and for
Hmm.
for them to lead the team in the middle of the spring is not counter intuitive, and it just kind of hurts the team chemistry overall. So I kind of see the moving the World Baseball Classic into the middle of the summertime, replacing World All-Star Game for like every 2-3 years or something like that. I
Hmm.
think it's plausible in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know how feasible. Again, that would have to be collectively bargained, Stephen, for them to do a World Baseball Classic in the middle of the season or to replace the All Star break. And
Yeah.
then you're going to have to talk about maybe instead of doing 162 games that season, maybe going back to 154 like they used to have. I don't know if that's going to if that would go over well with neither the owners or the players, but maybe that's something that they have to consider if they're going to take out a chunk of games. But we've seen with the NHL, when they do the Olympic hockey break, they still are managed to do the entire season of 82 games. So we'll wait and see how that works out. But again, anything that has to take place like a mid-season tournament has to be collectively bargained. Well, we have to wait, and that's something that maybe the owners hold that as a chip against the players in trying to get a ceiling, to get a salary cap or a salary ceiling or a salary floor. We'll have to wait and see. But I would love to see something like that. It would freshen up the All-Star game, or maybe do a world instead of doing American National League. Do you do a
Mhm.
USA versus World All-Star game? We'll have to wait, and again, that any changes have to be collectively bargained. I think the USA World, Rob Manfred could just ordain that, but anything like Olympic participation or a World Baseball Classic in the middle of the season has to be collectively bargained. But I'd love to see it. I think it would be a great thing to see, because then you
Mhm.
really truly would get best on best, because then all the pictures are stretched out, and you would be able to have maybe a good quality tournament. But again, got to wait and see. I hate to say wait and see, but it all depends on the collective bargaining agreement and if we see a lockout next season.
Mhm. All right, Ken. Let's kind of move into our final word segment of the situation. About other topics that really caught our attention this past week. I'm going to give you the floor first. Alyssa Liu came back to the U.S. after her incredible performance at the Winter Olympics in Milan Cortina. I do believe that she mentioned something about her liberal background in a recent interview, correct?
Yes, she did. And this is something interesting, Stephen. This is a interview she did with Rolling Stone. And of course, as we all know, and again, I'll put this back to the beginning
Because
because we want to listen to it. But interestingly enough, the right has adopted Alyssa Liu because she wasn't Eileen Gu, who participated for China, even though she's also a United States citizen, and they adopted her, saying, "Oh, well, this is an instance of someone who's Chinese, and she decided to represent the United States." Well, it's not like that.
Mhm.
She was born, even though she was born in China, she emigrated here and became a United States citizen. But interestingly enough, in an interview with Rolling Stone, she mentions that her family's pretty liberal. So let's listen to this interview and for this one thing. And thank you for Rolling Stone for this.
because he's so into politics, like kind of my whole family is as well. It's like the ideology of like to fight for what's right, and like speak up and like basic human rights, stuff like that. So that our family is pretty liberal, and like yeah, I would say it's thanks to my father. And we're just like proud of his story. We're outspoken too, just like he was, I would say. I mean, he was like really outspoken, a whole nother level. Like yeah, me and my family, we go to protests, and my best friend, their family is also really involved with politics. Sometimes we'll call like our policymakers. We'd write like little letters. I remember when we were kids, we would do this a lot. But yeah, mostly protest, donations too, like little stuff here and there.
What are things that you've protested, or what are things you've called your congressperson about?
Yeah.
What are issues that you
A lot of climate stuff, but mostly like election things, Black Lives Matter, like Stop Asian Hate, ICE protests, and yeah, a ton of that stuff.
So you can see there, Stephen, that she is pretty much, and her family, and you can see her father protests against was in Tiananmen Square, and we know in that back in 1988 how tragic that was when China turned on the protesters and killed a lot of protesters, and the very famous person who stood in front of the block the tank. We don't know where he is. We think that he's pretty much, unfortunately, has been killed by the communist government. But or at least if he's not, he's probably being held somewhere. Hate to see that, but again, you just see the background here. It's funny how the right has tried to adopt Alyssa Liu, saying that okay, she's a United States person, and her father came to the United States and hates communist China. Well, yes, he hates communist China, and a lot of us do. But the fact is that, Stephen, that you can't judge a book by a cover. You can't, because you try to fit a narrative, and she's not going to fit your narrative. And I think this interview with Rolling Stone is probably going to blast a lot of conservatives out of the water, because they thought that she was going to be they could fit her narrative. She could fit their narrative, and she's not going to fit the narrative.
Absolutely. My final word is Inter Miami visited the White House this past week. And the conversations involving Lionel Messi visiting the White House and laughing, yakking it up with Donald Trump while they're bombing Iran. Certainly, people in Argentina are very much pissed about the whole situation. I don't want to play any clip of it. Obviously, it's embarrassing. I think a lot of people would feel sick to their stomach. I do remember back when Charles Barkley always used to say, don't look up athletes as a hero or somebody to look up on.
A role
something.
model. Yeah,
a role model.
They're not role models. Yeah.
Yeah, certainly, I think it's poetic, and I think it's also ironic that somebody like Charles Barkley of all people would say that, because obviously he wasn't exactly somebody with a squeaky clean reputation when he was a player, and certainly he hasn't learned to shut up. Of course, since he became a color commentator with TNT and now with ESPN, of course. Will this tarnish his legacy forever? I guess it depends on who you ask. But certainly, people in Argentina are very much up in arms. Certainly, people around the world are very much up in arms, and rightfully so, because of the situation in the Middle East, and certainly the world we live in right now. Only Messi can answer those questions. I don't think he will ever hold a press conference at any point in his career to talk about it. Of course, Messi isn't the only guy who is caught yakking it up. I know Cristiano Ronaldo was also once seen in the White House, and then people didn't seem to like it either. Certainly, both players, as great as they are, they're probably 1-2 in the greatest soccer players of all time in that category, along with Pelé and among others. So they certainly have tarnished their reputations, but they probably wouldn't care less, because it certainly doesn't impact, again, their bottom line. Maybe a few lost endorsements here and there, but it certainly wouldn't hurt their bottom line, or dent their bank statement to a point where they feel like they need to issue a statement or something like that. But it does kind of feel sad. Seattle Seahawks won the Super Bowl, and they've already made it clear that they're not going to the White House already. I do believe that Seattle Sounders, they also made the same statement or decision not to go to the White House as did the Atlanta FC when they won the tournament, when they won the MLS Cups, mind you, when it all happened when Trump was in office, mind you. So it's a tough, slopes. I'm sure they'll probably be like, well, I didn't understand English. Obviously, Messi is not exactly proficient in English. I know he did say in an interview, he said he wished he had learned English a little bit better, but certainly if he learned English by now, he probably would have a hard time comprehending why people are so upset with him these days. But are we expecting too much from athletes? Certainly, given what the Team USA hockey team did, with themselves portraying as some sort of a victim, knowing language is certainly not a problem when it comes to these things, but it's a more of a moral issue that you chose to be there and you chose to laugh at something of this stuff like this. It's just mind blowing in my opinion.
Well, I'm not familiar with this Messi story. I didn't know he went to the White House, Stephen. So I really can't comment on him laughing behind the president, and that's unfortunate that we saw that happened, if that's the truth. But I can't really comment on it. But again, in the bigger range, in the bigger picture, I would have to say that as you mentioned, we shouldn't hold up. I know athletes can be role models, but some people think that they can. And Charles Barkley said that, as you remember in that Nike commercial, that he said, I am not a role model. I think it's probably true that, as much as we look up to athletes, you have to be careful on how you frame them in your narrative, because as I mentioned, Alyssa Liu was framed in the conservatives narrative. And, I think she shocked a lot of people by saying that her family's very liberal, and her dad is protesting a lot of things anti-ICE and making anti-Asian hate, Black Lives Matter. So again, you got to be careful who you idolize. Just know, if you maybe do some research on it before you decide that you want them to be your role model. So, and what Lionel Messi did, again, can't comment on it because I didn't see it. I didn't really know that he went there, Stephen. It's really, I think Inter Miami, was it because of Inter Miami won the MLS Cup and
right. They were also playing Washington DC United in Baltimore, of course, in the same week as well. So certainly.
Okay, so so I'm not.
That's why they were in town.
Yeah, right. So yeah, so they went there as on the invite of the guy in the White House. But yeah, you got to, teams have to make that decision whether they want to go or not. And as you mentioned, the women's Olympic hockey team did not go, while the men's did. We'll see the Seattle Seahawks, as you mentioned, decided not to go. But again. It's interesting to see who gets the invite and who doesn't. It looks like men's teams gets the invite, women's teams do not, because as you know, the guy in the White House, the guy in the White House isn't necessarily a fan of women. But again, you got to be. And again, let's just say this: in the bigger picture, just do your homework on who you want to idolize, because you just can't blindly follow them, because. In the case of like Alyssa Liu, or like in the case of other people, you may get shocked. So just make sure, like for instance, one of the lugers, one of the bobsledders came out as a big MAGA fan. And that may shock some people, but again, it may not. So because a lot of people may follow that person. So again, you just got to do your homework on who you want to follow and who you want to make your role model, because if you don't, you may be shocked on what you find out.
Right, and given that the team is located in Miami, and we know that Miami has always been a huge hotbed for South Americans, not just Cuba, but of course in years recently, Argentinians and Brazilians and so forth. There's always this influx down there that has kind of made it a little more difficult politically. Certainly, they made their statements in the last election, only to find out that a lot of their family members and themselves, of course, who voted for Trump, but ironically, are now getting arrested and deported through ICE. Of course, I have no way of connecting if any of the Inter Miami ownerships made any contributions, legal or illegal, to Donald Trump's or any of the Trump endorsed candidates throughout that city and so forth. But certainly, again, like you said, they will, you do your homework, and if you get backlash for still deciding to do it, you shouldn't be complaining about it. Like, the NHL hockey, the American players who openly complained about, themselves not being political, but you chose to, make bed with Donald Trump. So, you can't be expecting any, pass or, from anybody to, give them, yeah, I understand, so yeah, don't, any, pat in the back, or I guess I would say that, but hey, you choose to do it. It does come with the consequences. So don't be upset about, fans, because, you cannot accept the, I think, there's a morality aspect of it, that's where I think a lot of people are going to draw the line. It doesn't matter whether you're a celebrity or a play, athlete. You choose to be on which side, and then we're going to choose. We decide which side we want to be on. And if you want to be on the other side of it, then we're never going to support you at all. You cannot complain about it after you made that choice and it'd be like, why am I being attacked? Why am I being criticized by the fans and the media for it? So I hope you do realize it does come with the consequences, and you're not immune from it anymore, especially in this day and age. That's all I want to say.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap up our show for tonight. We thank the 122 people who decided to watch us tonight. And, if you decide that this is something you like and continue to watch us, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is right down there. We'll also post the live stream on my X channel, and also the YouTube. When we're on, I always post it on Blue Sky as well. So thanks very much for watching us. To next week, we will have a little bit more. We didn't get to NFL free agent frenzy, which starts tomorrow, Stephen.
Yep.
We'll see who signs. We'll see who decides to sacrifice their life and come to Cleveland, or those people who decide that they want to be part of a great thing with Chicago on the rise. So we'll see what happens there. And also next week will be Selection Sunday in the NCAA tournament. So we will find out who will go. We'll probably do our show after Selection Sunday, because NCAA selection show will be on at 6:00 Eastern time, and I want to see who gets in, and we'll talk about who didn't get in and all that stuff. So we look forward to seeing you. We'll have a great week in sport, and we'll see you all next Sunday, probably sometime after 7:00. And thank you to the 125 people who showed up and watched us. Thank you. We are forever grateful to you. We don't know who you are, but thank you very much, and continue watching us next week.